Hi, welcome to the Redshift for Houdini instancing intermediate tutorial. When we left off, we'd instance a sphere onto a grid of points. Let's see how we can vary the object that is instanced onto the grid of points. The first thing we'll do is remove the value that we have set for the instance path parameter on the object node. We'll make sure our viewport is locked at this level, and we'll dive down inside of the instance node. We'll add a point wrangle. And in addition to the instance path parameter on the instance object node, there exists a per point string attribute called instance that is supported by the viewport as well. So the first thing we want to do is achieve the same result we had before using this new technique. I'm going to hit Alt-E to open the edit string window. And we'll create a string attribute called instance. Go ahead, accept. We move our display flag to the point wrangle and make sure it's selected. We go over to our geometry spreadsheet. We can see we've created an empty instance attribute per point. All of the points have this attribute. Okay. If we select the grid node, we can see that the instance attribute is not there. We select the point wrangle again, and we can see our little placeholder is ready. So to get back to the same functionality that we had before, all we have to do is value this instance attribute and point it to some object node. We'll take our sphere object, drag it in between the quotes, hit Control Enter, and now we've valued that string instance attribute. If we switch back over to our viewport, you can see we have the same functionality that we had before. If I move the display flag to the grid so that the instance attribute no longer exists, I have to select that as well. Then we see that the instance attribute is not there and we get no instancing. If we move our display flag and selection back to the point wrangle, we see now that there is an per point instance attribute pointing to a valid object node, and the viewport instancing is activated. Let's do a quick Redshift render view IPR render to see how Redshift responds to our new per point instance string attribute. Oh, that's great. Here you can see Redshift also, in addition to the instance path object node parameter, Redshift also supports the per point string instance attribute. Great. So Redshift can read that. That's super. So now let's vary the objects that are instance per point. Right, to do that, we're going to make another change to our vex snippet. So here, what we'll do, there's multiple ways to do that. For the sake of this tutorial, we're going to create a string array called instances. And then we're going to put values in that array using the push vex function. Okay, and then need to give it a value here. We'll drag our sphere object. And so what this line does is it adds an entry into the string array. Okay, so instead of writing the value to the string attribute directly, we're going to tell it to look up its value inside of the array. And what that line is telling it to do is take the first value from that array, whatever it is. Okay, so when we do that, if we go back over to our geometry spreadsheet, we can see we're basically back to the same thing we had before, except it's looking it up in an array. And if we look at the scene view, it's obviously supported. If we check our Redshift render view, everything's good. So now let's add another object to the instance. Okay, first thing we'll do is go back up to object level. We'll add a box. Dive back down into our point wrangle. Open our string editor. And we'll put another value into the string array. Drag our box in. And we'll hit accept. Now, nothing has changed because the instance value is hard-coded to automatically take the first value out of the array. So let's add some variance here. There's multiple ways to vary this value. For the sake of this tutorial, we're just going to say even and odd. And all this modulus does is it says take the point number divided by 2. What that results in, if the point number is an even number, it'll take the first value in the array. If the point number is an odd number, it'll take the second value in the array. That's what that results in. And as you can see, we've varied the value of the instance attribute to point to different object nodes. Okay, we'll accept that. And if we go back over to our scene view, we can see that the viewport has reflected our attribute change. Let's go and quickly check Redshift and see how it responds. Awesome. Redshift also supports this setup. So what we've demonstrated in this tutorial is how to one way to vary the objects that are instanced onto the points. See you next time.